it was like, here again, I knew my purpose, I saw my purpose, and it's the metabolic health crisis in the US that nobody is talking about it. Over 93% of Americans have an unhealthy metabolism. And most people think that means, my metabolism's slow, so I'm gaining weight. Well, that's a tiny, tiny, tiny.
Hey now, how is everybody doing? Welcome to Red Alert Diaries with Tanya E. Hood. And today we have a special guest joining us, Miss Jana Lee Gatong. Hey Jana, how you doing? Thank you so
Hello,
much for
Tanya.
being here.
I am so honored to be here.
Yes, and for those of you that have not yet met Jana, then you are in for a treat because Jana is the mother of three adult sons and grandma to one teenage grandson. They are her heart and what she lives for. She has a master's of acupuncture degree, a functional nutrition certificate, and is a neuro encoding specialist. How about them apples? She has been in clinical practice as a healer for the past 30 years, a path God laid out for her, and she embraces it wholeheartedly. At 60 years old, she now has an online health and life coaching business. It helps her to reach more people because in the United States of America, we face the biggest health crisis to date, and no one is talking about it. Yeah, we're going to talk about that today and give you a little more insight. So, with that, Jana, I want to say thank you so much for being here. Thank you for your heart to serve. And then, can you share a little bit more about yourself with our audience?
I myself have faced health challenges throughout my life. And here again, I believe that God gave those to me so that I could gain understanding to help other people along the way. Of course, when you're in them and you're young, you kind of go, what is going on? And I was kind of an enigma back then. But anyway, in 1993, I got divorced from the father of my children and had a complete mental breakdown. I couldn't understand. I thought, that I'd married this really strong man who was going to help me and my children and be a happy family forever. And, you know, God had different plans, and that's okay now. But at the time, I went through a nervous breakdown, and it was really, really tough for almost a year. And at that point in time, my mother was seeing an acupuncturist for her rheumatoid arthritis and said, Jana, I want you to go. And I kind of thought about it, and I thought, you want to take me to a witch doctor? And I thought, well, she's paying for it. I've tried everything else. The meds aren't working for me. Nothing else is working for me. So I went, and it was an absolutely life-changing experience. And the very first time. And she was a great acupuncturist. And she said, on the second visit, she said, you need to figure out what you want to do with the rest of your life. You're very young still. You have your whole life ahead of you. So before you come back here next week, I want you to decide what you want to do. And, I prayed about it. I asked God about it, but I really knew in my heart that he had set this whole thing up for me because I was supposed to be an acupuncturist. And the road that he laid out for me was just magical. It was terrifying, but it was magical. I went and I got my undergraduate work done. I'm from a little tiny town in Idaho. And so I went to the closest university, which was 3 hours away, got my undergrad work done in pre-med, and then went to Seattle, Washington to get my graduate work done in acupuncture. And I didn't know anybody there, nobody. And I just, I said, God, you better help me through this, please help me through this. You're the one that started me on this path. And all my faith is in you. So please, if you can get my children through this without being, harmed in any way. And I, of course, had my medical issues. I have scoliosis, and then I have a couple of autoimmune issues. And I said, and if you can get me through it and still be vertical, I will serve your children until you don't want me to anymore. I'm yours. I will never turn one away. So God and I had this deal.
And that's the thing that God does on a regular basis. So thank you so much for sharing that with us. The plans that we have, we think one way, and then there's one moment that we get a transition that can help us expand. And let me ask you that, what's going through that, is that part of what's inspiring you? Because you've got a great story of how God has walked you through a path to get you your certification, your master at what you're doing. What's inspiring you?
Definitely God. Not only inspiration, but my guide through this. But my family, I have the three most amazing adult sons, and they're all successful in their own right. And then, of course, I have my 14, almost 15-year-old grandson who I live for. And he and I went zip lining last year, and we go on these summer vacations. I got to tell you, he keeps me young. But then, of course, I have met through my practice, both in clinic and online, I have met the most wonderful people. And I call them my family of the heart because I pretty much was an only child. I have a brother and sister from my dad's previous marriage, but they're quite a bit older than I am. So I'm pretty much alone in this world besides my children and grandsons. So I collect family and I do love them just as if they were my own blood.
I understand that because I'm what is considered a village baby. In the African community, there is something called the village. And those individuals that are around you, they are not related by blood, but they watch after you, they take care of you, and they are, I like that saying, family of the heart. So having heard that and got that understanding, is a part of what you are walking through, getting the heart part, which expanded you to want to do more with helping others. Because you shared how your mother took you to go be an acupuncturist. It wasn't something that you were looking for, but it was something that you tapped into. Is that something that is encouraging you to support your clients now? Can you talk more about that?
Absolutely. When I went to school the first time, I was kind of a rowdy kid, and I had a choice. They said, we're either going to expel you. This was in my senior year. And I was pretty much a straight A student, or you can go to college. So take your pick. And I said, okay, I'll go to college. And my father was very opinionated. Now, he's one of my heroes, but he was very opinionated. He was very strong-willed. He had got kicked out of school in the seventh grade, and yet became a very, very good businessman and well-known contractor all over California and the Western states, poured runways for Air Force bases all over the country. And so he said, well, you're going to go into computer science because that's the new thing. And I went down there and I hated it. I absolutely hated it. But I was really good at business. And I had my own businesses. I started my own businesses when I was 19 in retail sales and different things, but they weren't my purpose. I was always looking for my purpose, and I thought, oh, my children must be my purpose. And they are to some degree, as all children are. But when God set me on this path to become an acupuncturist, it was as if a lightning bolt had absolutely come out of the sky and said, this is your purpose. This is what you need to do. And I really liked it because I'm a people person. I love people. And to be able to help them and educate them on how to take care of their bodies, how to get over disease, how to have a better outlook on life, regardless of what their diagnosis might be, that might be life-changing to them and life-saving as well. So I really absolutely love to help people in any capacity that I can. And that's how my clinical practice has kind of morphed into what I do today as a health and wellness and life coach, so that I can, reach more people, help more people, and just spread joy and tidbits of knowledge along the way.
Because that also gives us more insight about your heart to serve. Because you have mentioned that the United States of America is in the middle of a crisis. Can you tell us more about that? Because we sort of alluded to it, but the people need to know, and they need to hear it from you.
So it's really interesting. So God put me on the path to becoming now a health and wellness coach too. And because I had to ask him, because I got really, really sick, not with COVID, but during COVID, my autoimmune issues really took over. And I got to the point where when I could go back to work, I was too ill to go back to work. And he set up a few things and I had the conversation. I said, "Are you done with me? Is it over? Have I served my purpose? I mean, if I have, I'm, okay with that. Kind of wanted to go on living, but, and that very day that I prayed and said that, he set up something for me to see on Facebook and an event for me to go to. And it was, here again, I got another light bulb moment. Oh my gosh, I need to keep doing this and pushing forward. And the coaching thing was kind of born, but I didn't find the thing that I really needed to teach people. But when I started getting more and more and more into the functional medicine aspect of it, it was like, here again, I knew my purpose, I saw my purpose, and it's the metabolic health crisis in the US that nobody is talking about it. Over 93% of Americans have an unhealthy metabolism. And most people think that means, my metabolism's slow, so I'm gaining weight. Well, that's a tiny, tiny, tiny piece of it. And I think that that's what, people like us to believe, the food companies, to some extent, the medical field, the drug companies. But we have been taught wrong information from the time that we were born. The food pyramid is so unhealthy. And so I have decided that, if it's just me, but I know there's others like me, I'm going to go out and I want to teach people the correct foods to eat, the correct timing to eat them, why we cannot keep eating the standard American diet, SAD for short, because it is literally killing us. Examples of an unhealthy metabolism, not just weight gain, high blood pressure, cardiovascular disease, asthma, diabetes, high cholesterol, COPD, autoimmune issues, inflammatory disease, irritable bowel syndrome. I mean, the list is endless. And the doctors are treating these as symptoms, not saying you need to go home and change your diet. And if they do say that you need to go home and change your diet, if you get a diagnosis like diabetes, they don't tell you how.
And let's unpack that, because that is a lot. And we don't pay attention to the fact how much food affects our health. And SAD, I had never thought about it. The standard American diet is SAD. So with our SAD diet, how do we begin to unpack and start assessing where we are? All of these different things that you have, one medicine, another medicine to try to help you with this, that, and the other. And I know for me, when God helped me get myself together, because science says I have asthma. Now, I don't know how all of that happened, but when I was little, yes, I did have some breathing. I still had to monitor what I do. But my grandmother, she was one of the ones to help me understand everything that God created. He has created a way of helping it regenerate, restore, and be renewed. But we're stuck in the middle of an environment that causes us to think different, function different, and our health declines. So I don't know what was in the tea she gave me when I was little, but it helped me with my breathing. And when she died, unfortunately, I had no clue what was inside that little brown can in the backyard. Never dawned on me to pick it up, discover it. But I had to start being put on an inhaler. Albuterol made it worse. I ended up with the jitters for like 30 minutes. It caused other issues. So my sinuses were impacted. And then I had other health issues because my sinuses drained into my lungs. And oh, we got to talk more. So, what can people do if they recognize the doctor said this? You're saying it's a metabolic issue?
Yes.
Unpack that a little bit more so people can understand a little bit different.
We can't be healthy with the foods that we eat unless you're eating a very, very clean and like a Mediterranean style diet. But we're not taught that. So, case in point, we'll talk about me. When I was born, breastfeeding wasn't a thing. A lot of women didn't want to do it. And the formula of choice was Caro syrup and canned milk. Now, if I was born a healthy baby, that right there was going to ruin any chance of me being a healthy child. And I did. I had horrible health problems when I was little. Recurrent infections. Nobody knew why, and being my mother's only child, she was terrified that I was going to die. So I grew up an antibiotic baby. And doctors mean well. I am not going to go and say, in fact, I have a little joke. I hope nobody takes offense. I call them great car mechanics. If you have a ruptured spleen, if you have a broken bone, anything like that, they are a miracle. But the rest of it is practicing. They don't have all the answers. The drug companies don't have all the answers. Your grandma had a lot of the answers. I am an herbalist too. My neighbors think I'm nuts because I do not spray any pesticides on my property. And I'm out all spring, summer, and fall collecting little things and putting them away. So I have a clue maybe what she had you on. But we need to realize that we need to get rid of the fast food. Sugar, number one. Sugar is the number one killer out there. And people go, oh, well, then I'll drink diet soda. The sugar replacements are actually lethal too. So, I mean, they've decided that the sugar alcohols that are supposed to be great, that a lot of people use if they're diabetic, they use like Swerve. It has erythritol, sorbitol. All the tols are sugar alcohols. And, the word alcohol is in there for a reason. So it has kind of the same effect. They've come out with studies recently saying that, these things can cause cancer, especially liver cancer. Nobody wants to talk about that either. But if we could just cut the sugar out, that doesn't mean not eat fruit. You can have your fruit, a baked apple or anything. It brings out, especially if you season it right, brings out all the flavors and the sugars to the surface. And it can be just lovely. But, dairy is another big one that most people are reactive to, if not allergic. We love cheese. We love different things. It brings us comfort, but the health problems that it causes are just immense. And then there's grains. And even if you think you're eating healthy, then we've got to talk about pesticides and what the animals ate that we are now consuming. And it's huge. It's huge. And people get overwhelmed. And so my job is to try to simplify it for them so that they don't feel so overwhelmed. But honestly, if people would just get rid of sugar, dairy for the most part, and cut down on their grains and only eat whole grains, that right there is going to make a huge difference.
So let's talk a little bit about that because I know for me, and yes, I told my doctors years ago, I'm not taking this thing anymore. So I have been off of my hair and I wasn't never really on it a whole lot because when I first got on it and I realized all the stuff they kept putting me on more and more and more and more things. So in my mid-20s is when I decided I'll use it if I have a major thing. But my grandmother taught me how to breathe through
Mhm.
some of the stuff that I was doing. So I'm gonna have to get with you to figure out maybe what was in that can. So help us understand more. We have learned in some elements the sugar, but I didn't know about all the talls. That is a wake-up call. What else? Because if we are thinking we're eating healthy, but we got all these things on it, how can we work on doing this if our foods are being poisoned with the chaos stuff, with all of the pesticides? What can we do? How do we make it through this process?
Farmers markets in the spring, summer, and fall, depending on where you live, are lifesavers because most people who sell their produce and things at farmers markets are more conscious of what they're growing their food in. Organic, here again, if you can afford to buy organic, and Costco and Walmart now have really expanded their options in their produce sections and meat sections for organic. So, the options are out there. So you have to just look for them. And if you absolutely can't afford to do that, there's what's called the Dirty Dozen. You can look it up on the web about what foods the pesticides are most on or the toxins are most in. And you can, like eliminate those from the regular produce and try to buy those in the organic. Grass-fed meats are very important. Here again, we eat way more meat than we should, but that's a whole nother conversation. But try to, pasture raised, grass fed, wild caught. Those are all things in the grocery stores that we should be looking for. We should also avoid the middle of the grocery store where things are canned and packaged and, have the preservatives and everything else in that are affecting our health.
Thank you for sharing that because we don't often get insight about those small little things that we can do. And I want to ask you this. You have personalized coaching sessions. Do you share this in that? Can you unpack that a little bit more for us?
I have courses and then I have personalized coaching sessions to where people can get one-on-ones. I have them fill out this monstrously huge health questionnaire so that I am not, when we go in, I can really have a good idea on where they're at. And then I will continue to ask them questions, just like if they came into my clinic. And, and then we can kind of get them set up on a new plan that's doable for them and have follow-up sessions. So I sell those in packages of 3 so that they can get the initial session and 2 other sessions. And then if they need more after that, then they can just buy additional sessions. I also have 2 signature courses. One is for people who are very chronically ill and they just want to get better. It's called Better Every Day. It teaches them how to start incorporating some of these habits into their lives with not only food, but with mindset and gentle movement and things like that, to where they can start living their life again. Because a lot of these people are homebound or bedbound, or their quality of life has suffered greatly and they just don't feel like they're living anymore. And then I have the reset program, the metabolic reset program that I have. And it goes in and really teaches people and takes them through a process that actually resets their metabolism, gets their body to clean up the garbage and detoxify. And, and then I set them up for life. I started this out as a 12-week program. It's now a 6-month program because most people need to go through it twice and go through what I call maintenance in the middle of those 2 sessions. And really, so that I'm not just going, okay, here's the information and I'm going to turn you loose. That's what most physicians do. I don't want to be that person. I've never been that person. I want to give them every chance to succeed that I can. So by keeping them in there 6 months, and I mean, they get a private Facebook group, they get once a week coaching with me, they have people that they can ask things to, but I'm usually available too, because I try to keep the group small enough that I know everybody. Here again, they have to fill out this huge health questionnaire and everything else. And that way I can individualize it. All the programs, anything that I do is very individualized to that person. So, and I'm adding things all the time. There's exciting things coming up too.
I thank you for that. And I'm wondering if one of those exciting things is a new book that you have. Can you tell us more about it?
I am coming up with a book of recipes because that's people's big questions. Well, you tell us that we have to cut this and this and this. So how do I do this? And there's things when I say cut sugar, like I said, I don't mean cut fruit. And so there's ways to like make an apple pie without adding all that sugar. You can still use your spices. You can still do things. There's crusts that you can use that are way more healthy. And people don't realize that putting dates or maple sugar or syrup in small quantities in something can really, help it out. Not a lot of people like stevia. They don't like the aftertaste. Sometimes if you have diabetes or pre-diabetes, it's absolutely imperative that you really cut that sugar out. And another alternative is monk fruit. It is a 0-calorie sweetener. It's a lot more palatable to a lot of people. So I'm incorporating these into the recipes and different things so that people can see that they can eat healthy and still eat really good food and comfort food.
Thank you for that. And it's good to know that those can be done. The thing that I love that I learned from my grandmother, she used a whole lot of spices. So I've grown up, I was one of those children. Now, here's the thing, sort of an oxymoron that always got on my nerves when I was little. So glad about it now, though. My grandmother was known as the candy lady. So she would sell candy out the house, but we didn't get the chance to have the candy. She put more spices on our food instead of sugars. So I didn't grow up with a sort of a sweet tooth for candy and stuff like that. And I do like my pastries. It is taking me a lot to work on getting out of that phase. But we can talk more about that offline. Let me ask you this. With all the stuff that you've shared, I want to say thank you. You have given my audience some great insight, great information, and you, with your big, beautiful heart, you have shared that you have a special gift that you want to get to my audience. Can you tell us more about that?
I do. I am going to give you guys a recipe book that I am putting together right now of a lot of these recipes that are going to be in the bigger book. So, anyway, you guys get to have a recipe book of your own.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. So we can have our little mini recipe book to get us started off right. So for those of you that are watching, make certain that you click the links that are below so that you can get the information that Janet's going to share with you. Janet, thank you. Is there one last thing that you'd like to share with the audience before we go?
Know that God has your back in any situation that may seem dire, that may seem hopeless. He's got your back. Reach out to him because he will open a way. Several times in my life when I thought that I was dying or I didn't want to live, that's what I did. And I know for a fact that I'm not that special, even though I say I'm God's favorite and joke about that. God loves each and every one of us. We are his children. And I one of my missions to serve you is to tell you he's got your back. So please, please. And if you need something, I'm easy to find on Facebook or wherever. So reach out to me. So
thank you so much for that, Jana. And I want you all to make certain that you follow her on Facebook, on Instagram. Follow her, Jana Lee Gatang. And there you'll get the opportunity to see what else she is doing, how else she can be a support to you. And so for today, if you don't remember anything else we shared, here's the one thing we want you to know. You have the opportunity to change your life anytime you feel like it. And in this day and age, with this crisis that she just gave us greater insight about it, get your health together. Because your health is your wealth. Because without it, you can't do anything. And if you want someone to join you on the journey, feel free to go to Jana's website. You can also reach out to my website to help you through the process. And if there's anything that you have and seen inside of this, like, share, leave your comments below so that we can give you little extra tidbits along the way as we see your needs. And in the meantime, you can also join us live every Tuesday at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on YouTube. Jana's going to be there with us tonight. So you make certain that you join us in that journey. And for today, this is Tanya Ehud, walking in my purpose. And I want you to do the same.
to come